Growing up, I always knew I wanted to be an artist. Photography for me is such a long, varied process. There's the taking of the picture, there's the developing the film, the printing, the contact sheets, the touching up, the exhibiting, the showing, the final product, website now. But it all comes back to that one moment when you take the picture. A lot of photographs might be weighted towards the final product, the darkroom work, or the effects on the picture. For me, it's all weighted towards that one moment where you release the shutter. Everything that comes after that is less important. I put a lot of work into the finished product, but without that initial framing, and this is why the title West of the Sun appealed to me. It gives that impression of chasing the sun, trying to get to the west of the sun, chasing a tail, trying to get somewhere over the rainbow. It's that focus, that moment where you're in that state of mind where everything comes together. You're working with geometry, you're working with textures, you're working with what you see through the lens. Working with a wide-angle lens, it gives you that room. You can look at the landscape before you and see lines and shapes and patterns that come together and take your eye on a journey. And that's the stage where you have to get it right. And that's why I work within these restrictions of always using the same lens, of using a prime lens, a 24mm lens, and using film. You're restricted to how many frames you can take on a film. You have to think about what you're doing. You're working within these restrictions that spur you on, that allow you to break the rules. And I find myself in new surroundings, in a landscape, all my senses switch on and I go into overdrive. I'm aware of what things would look like wherever I stand, if I'm 10 metres further that way or 2 centimetres further that way, or I can predict how things are going to look. And you get yourself into place and you start taking pictures and you start shooting and you get the basic stuff and then you adjust slightly, then you move over there and then you go over there and you're in this zone of chasing your tail, of looking for that perfect shot, of making the most of what's in front of you. And I guess this way of working, this way of moving around quickly, of working with what you have, comes from reportage that I used to do. You're in a situation where you haven't got the luxury to wait around and look for the perfect shot, but you have to find that perfect shot under pressure. The challenge with working with Mother Nature, with the landscape, is you have a lot less to work with. If when you take a photograph, there's a two-way journey. There's what's coming into the camera from the outside, the light, the exposed film is coming into the camera. Now you have to somehow have something going the other way. You have to somehow put yourself into the film as well. You are putting your unique stamp onto something. You are creating a piece of art, whether it's reportage or landscape, documentary, portrait, whatever it is. You are creating something that should be personal to you, that should be unique to you. When it's just you in a landscape, there's a lot less for you to work with. You have to work harder to express yourself. You have to work harder to make an image that is going to have the same impact on the viewer as a documentary or portrait picture does. And fascinated by the rules of composition that were adhered to and developed in the Renaissance, and the rules of thirds and the triangles, and the journey that your eye makes within a photograph, within an image, within a frame. I love to be able to break those rules and to be able to do that when you're taking pictures, to get that perfect framing at the time of taking the picture, I think is incredibly important and a real challenge.